Man, you guys are fun. This is a lot of fun. I like being here. I kind of wish, I tell you what's really neat for me is like the smoke and the lights. Because if we could just get like a fan and then I could turn into Beyonce. Yeah, I could see your halo. We'd start singing and the hair flowing. Anybody know who Beyonce is? Beyonce? All right. Hey, my name's Scott, and I am absolutely, really fired up to be hanging out with you for a little bit. And here in the next 2 hours while I'm talking, we are going to really dive in to some, is everybody cool with that? 2 hours? Y'all weren't even listening, were you? All right, so here we go. Here's what I love about coming here is like when the band gets up here, and this is one of the reasons that I love to be able to spend some time with you, because when I talk, I don't just stand here and kind of talk. When I talk, what I like to do is bring the thunder the whole time. And so the music you just heard is not the only music you're going to hear all night, okay? So we're going to be rolling tunes. We're going to be rolling tunes here for the next few minutes, and I'm going to be weaving in and out some things. Anybody ever heard of John Mayer? We're going to hear a little John Mayer. Anybody ever heard of Khalid? On the east side, right? We're going to hear a little Khalid. Has anybody ever heard of Will Smith? Will Smith? Man, more of you than I thought. Okay. Will Smith, we might see if we can spin some Will Smith. Has anybody ever heard, let's see, Leon Bridges. I'll be surprised. Really? Okay, all right. Y'all can hang with me. You know, I'm 44 soon. And I walked in, and one of you guys, I'm not going to call you by name, but I don't want to embarrass you, but one of you guys stopped me in the door and go, man, how old are you? I'm like, bro, I'm just like 44. And it's like, dang, that's old, man. Have you signed up for AARP? I'm like, no, like I'm still like 10 years away from that. So, you know, don't give me a hard time, all right? I promise we're going to make this a lot of fun tonight. I'm not going to embarrass you, okay? I'm not going to embarrass you, the one that called me out. Hey, there's a couple of things. We're in the midst of summer, just a couple of weeks in, school's out. You guys are doing your thing. Before we dive into our teaching time, we always do something around our table at our home. Whenever I'm in business meetings, I'll start a business meeting out this way. By the way, I need you guys to start coming to our business meetings because it's a whole lot more fun when you're in the room than kind of some of the duds sometimes. So if some of you are interested in that, I'd love to have you come to our meetings. But you got to come up to like the front, got to play music, smoke, the Beyonce hair, all that kind of stuff. You got to bring it if you're going to bring it. But we're right in the middle of summer, and what we do around our table and what we do in business meetings is we always start off with what we call a big win. A big win. B-I-G. Begin in gratitude. So this is a risk to open this up, so I'm going to ask you to respect it. But I'd like to have a couple of you. It can either be a school win, it can be a sports win, it can be something that happened at home, but something really cool that happened in your life here in the last 2 or 3, 4 weeks. Just pick something, raise your hand, and I'll call on you, and I want you to share it with the group. Just start with a big win. What's something that's really cool that's happened in the last few weeks? I'll start. I've actually had a couple of really cool things. My daughter graduated high school. She goes off to college in 62 days, but who's counting, right? And then my wife and I just celebrated 21 years of marriage, and she is fine, dog. Like, she's good looking. She's really good looking. All right, what about you? You got a big win? Somebody? Dang. Oh, okay, yeah. Ooh, where'd you go? Dang, trip to Europe. Now everybody's like, my win's not like that. It's kind of like going to a party and be like, hey, what do you do? Oh, I work at a local business. What do you do? I'm an astronaut. Kind of shuts the conversation down, doesn't it? Yeah, go ahead. Hey, everybody listen up. Everybody listen up, please. Say it again. I like that. Was that in Atlanta? That was in Atlanta? Daytona Beach, just down the highway. Okay, one more. Yes. Aruba, Jamaica. Ooh, I wanna. Okay, did you have fun? You had a good time? Great. All right, so those are some big wins. That's what I like to do. Now, you have been pre-programmed that once you get into summer, remember I said Will Smith? Right, some of y'all got it? So you've been pre-programmed as we head into summer that you just kind of step back and unwind, right? The groove's back and it's kind of a bore and you can start singing through the whole thing. But here's what I want us to do as we go into summer. I'm going to give you 4 things right now. 4 things that are absolutely 4 things that you have got to do this summer so that you don't waste your summer. See, because summer's a big, big opportunity for you to either waste time or it's a big opportunity for you to be able to grow. It's one of the things I loved about your big win. You said, I went to Passion Camp and I grew closer to the Lord. Well, you can do some more of that even when you're not at camp. You can do that at home. And so I want everybody to hold up your sheet of paper real quick. You should all gotten a sheet of paper. Great. Hold up your pen in your other hand. All right, go ahead and put those back down. Here's what we're going to do. These are called pens and paper. Now, we used to use these before phones came out, all right? Hey, I'm going to ask you guys, by the way, while I'm talking, you guys go ahead and not talk for the next few minutes while I'm talking, and then we're going to dive back into you talking and singing and all of that here in just a little bit, because I want to make sure everybody can hear what's going on. So, pen and paper is what we used to use way back in the old days, like decades ago when I was like 20. And tonight, I told Jesse, I don't want any slides tonight. What I want you to do is I want you to put your phones away. Normally, I have you pick up your phones. And I'm going to use my phone one more time because my kids kind of give me a hard time every now and then. They're like, Dad, you know, you are 44 almost, and maybe some of the cool edge is wearing off. So I'm going to reverse that tonight. I just need everybody to wave because I need to prove to my kids like I still got swag. All right, so everybody wave. Go ahead. Okay, there we go. Thank you for helping me. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to have you throughout the duration of our time here in just the next few minutes, I'm going to have you write things down on a sheet of paper, old school, old-fashioned. I'm going to have you write things down, and when you write them down, there's a couple of things that are going to happen. When you write things down on a sheet of paper, it offers other people the opportunity to be able to read it. Because I tell you what's really great is when some of my kids come home and they've written something down, and I can say, hey, bud, what'd you guys talk about? And they've got it written down, and we can actually walk through it. So it allows me to share in what they're learning about even when I'm not there. Also, it ensures that it's got some stickiness, some staying power. Now, I get social media. It's up there. It's in the cloud. It's screenshotted. It's whatever. But when you write it down, all of a sudden, it kind of locks in your head. And so we're going to go through the habit of writing some things down tonight. The other thing that it allows you to do is to really own it. There's a guy, he wrote a quote. He said, if you don't write it down, you don't own it. If you don't write it down, you don't own it. And so think about it. It's kind of true. If you just speak the words and you said, yeah, those are my words. Well, how do I mean? They're just kind of floating out there. But if you wrote something down yesterday or a year ago or 10 years ago, then you can go back to that thing and go, hey, that's what I wrote down. And as time goes on for you guys, as some of you 6th graders get into 8th grade or some of you 9th graders get into 12th grade, you'll be able to look back the last few years and go, oh, man, I wrote that down. That's a way that God was speaking to me. And so also, when you write it down, what it will do is help remind you later when it's something that you want to know. A little George Strait for you. Right? Write this down. We don't have many country music fans here? Okay, no more country. No more country tonight. So we want to make sure that we write this down. There's actually a really, really great verse. It's in the far Old Testament of your Bible, way almost at the beginning. And God tells this prophet, he says, write the vision down. It literally says, write the vision down. Why? So that those who read it, those who see it, can begin to run. They can run towards it or they can run away from it. It's their decision. But can you imagine if God had chosen not to write his words down so that we don't have them in this book that we get to call the Bible? So that's why I want us to practice writing some things down. I think it'd be really, really helpful for us tonight. Okay, so 4 things that I want you to lock in on. I want you to drill down. And these are 4 practical things throughout the rest of the summer that I want you to look back at this sheet of paper and go, you know what, I'm going to work on these. I'm going to work on these 4 things because when I go back to school in August, I want to grow closer to God than I am right now. And so in my growing closer to God, I need to work on some things. And so I'm going to give you 4 things that I want you to work on right away. First, go ahead and write this down. The first thing that I want you to do that is a no-miss, you cannot miss this summer, and that is I want you to work on a hard skill. I want you to work on a hard skill. I want you to hear one of my favorite songs of all time. This is by John Mayer. And it's called Walt Grace's Submarine Test, January 1967. That's the title of the entire song. And I want you to listen to this quote right here. So with a will to work hard and a library card, he took a one-man, fan blade, homemade submarine ride. Now, you may not understand the song. That's okay. I'm going to explain it to you. So here's what happened. You got a guy who might have been 40, 44, just like I am, And he got kind of tired of just kind of doing the thing. Everybody listen to me, please. He got kind of tired of everybody just kind of going through the motions. And so what he ended up doing is this was 1967 now, he went and got a library card. And with the library card, he started reading books, and he started learning things. And he went on this mythical adventure where he created a submarine, a homemade fan blade submarine ride. And so he created this homemade submarine with a fan blade on the back of it. He put it in the water on the east coast of the United States. He pedaled it all under the water around the world and ended up in Tokyo. And then he flew back. And he got back to the United States, and he decided that he was going to do something different with his life because he had always done what other people had wanted him to do instead of working on a skill that he had developed. Now, for some of you, you might think, well, I don't have time to really do that because, I'm on MySpace a lot. Y'all even know what MySpace is? Okay. Like, that was a joke. So that's a moment you can laugh at that joke. So you're always, you might be on social media, you might be doing some things, but the reality is sometimes you look at and you're like, I don't know that I can really work on a skill. Like, I don't know what I would work on. Why would I even work on it? Because I can just do Insta stories right now, and I can hang out online, and I can play video games. So why would I work on a hard skill? Well, I want to tell you a story in the Bible. It's in Exodus 35. I want you to write that down, Exodus 35. And I want you to try to spell this name the best you can. The name is Bezalel. Bezalel. Just spell it however you want to spell it. Bezalel is the name. And in Exodus 35, this is what God tells Bezalel. He said, I have put inside of you the Spirit of God, giving you great wisdom, expertise, and craftsmanship in all sorts of crafts. So see, at the time, God was preparing to build. You guys just went through a building program here in the last few years, just across the hall right there. And there was a lot of preparation that was going on in order to get that building ready to go. Well, what ended up happening was God was preparing certain people with skill sets to understand how construction worked, how stonework works, how wood works, all of these things, all of these ingredients in construction work, so that they put it all together and they came up with what that people group at that time knew as the Jewish temple. Well, they couldn't have built a temple unless they had people skilled, qualified enough to be able to get all the materials together, to be able to get all the plans together, and begin to put hammer and nail and wood and stone and everything else that needed to go in there together. But I want to go back. What was the guy's name I told you about? Bezalel, all right? So I want you to go back. With Bezalel, what ended up happening is that God put inside of him a spirit of craftsmanship, this spirit of being able to use a hammer and nail and wood and stone and all these things. And sometimes when you guys look around and you see a truck driving down the road that says Frank's Air Conditioning, or you see a fast food place, or you see something else, a lot of times we just take that for granted, but the reality is so many of those people, that's a skill that God has put inside of them. And so you have an opportunity to start to work on that skill, whether that skill is singing, welding, doing like surgery on like bananas and stuff. Not real people yet. Please don't do that. But there's a variety of things that you can start to do. Technical skills, all sorts of skills. And what my fear is during the teenage years, sometimes we just go, man, I just want to sit back. Like, I don't want to do anything. And it's prime time to be able to start understanding and identifying the skill that God's put inside of you. Because if you can understand that now, and see, you guys are at a much different place now, and it's a really cool place, because I hate to say this because it makes me sound like a grandpa, but when I graduated high school, I couldn't get a certificate in welding, in auto mechanics, in firefighting, in technology, in drone stuff, and all that. You can do that now. And so you can start to uncover this skill that God has uniquely put inside of you here over the next couple of years, and you can start to develop that over and over and over again. There's two students right now who are working on some unique skills that I think is really cool. One girl, actually the story just broke today, Selah Schneider. I don't know if any of you have heard of her. She just climbed El Capitan, which is a 3,000-foot, I think they said it's 3.5 Rockefeller Centers stacked on top of each other, with a straight face going all the way up. And over a period of 5 days, she climbed up that. She slept on the side of the rock. as she would go up. She would climb, and then she would hang in an Eno through ropes and all this on the side of the face of El Capitan. She would wake up the next day, and her dad and another friend were with her, and she would climb some more, and then she would sleep, and then she would climb some more. She did that 5 days. 5 days. She is the youngest person to ever climb El Capitan. She's 10 years old. When do you think she started working on her rock climbing skill? Yesterday? No. For years, and God has given her a gift to be able to do that. So develop that gift. So I want to give you something practical. So under point number 1, which you should have written down, work hard on a skill, and then that name Bezalel, right underneath, I want you to write this. Go ahead and get your pens. I want you to write this. And that is spend 15 minutes per day doing some skill. Spend 15 minutes a day doing some skill. I want you to wake up tomorrow, and I want you to think, what's a skill that I could work on today? Is it like cutting wood? Is it doing a craft? What is it? What is a skill that I could work on today? Is it cooking that I could work on today where I could really begin to grow? All right, that's the first thing. And so I want you to start asking yourself, what is your homemade fan blade submarine experiment that you're going to start working on? Because God's given you an opportunity to be able to do that. Number 2, get your pens, your papers. Number 2, the second thing that I want you to focus on this summer is to spend more time talking in real life. Okay, so write that down, talking in real life, then I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. So I want you to spend more time talking in real life. All right, now everybody look up once you're done writing. All right? Some of you are like writing a paragraph. That's it. All right. I want you to spend more time talking in real life. This is an example of what it looks like to not talk to another human in real life. It's awkward, isn't it? Like when you're watching somebody else do it, it's a little bit awkward. Guys, I want to share something with you. So I told you I like Khalid. I'm into Khalid. There's some things Khalid sings I'm not really into, but there's other things that he sings. He just put an album out a couple months ago. This was off of his first album. Some of y'all are like, yeah, I feel it. I feel it. I feel it. I do too. But I want you to listen to the lyrics. Okay, so I want you to think about your real life as a student. I want you to think about your real life as a student. And the reality is, in your real life as a student, you guys are on this emotional roller coaster. It's just true. It's not like, don't be mad at me for being the messenger, but the reality is you can be on an emotional roller coaster. Some of you know what I'm talking about, but you won't admit it out loud. But you're in it right now. You're like, God, what does he think? What does he think? I wonder what he thinks now. Well, what about now? Well, maybe it's different now. What does he think now? Or what does she think now? And so you're on this emotional roller coaster, and it's in a different level right now. And part of the reason that it's at a different level is because there's so much of this going on. And when we're head down in this stuff, guess what I get to think that you're thinking? Whatever I want. And so a lot of times I'm making stuff up in my head about what you think about me because I'm not willing to have a human conversation, face to face, voice to voice, eye contact. And so I want you to think about real life. I've got a buddy of mine. He's a psychologist. Sounds kind of boring, but he's into that. He's up in Charlotte. We were talking one day, and I was talking about you, students. And I was trying to get insight because I'm a dad of students, and we're trying to learn, and we're trying to grow, and we're trying to help develop and serve and do all of these things. And so I was trying to get some insight just on students and what he sees. And I want y'all to listen to me really, really carefully. What he told me kind of freaked me out, to be honest with you. There's this word called empathy. Go ahead and write that down, that word empathy. And if you don't know what it means, go home and ask somebody at home. What does empathy mean? It's spelled E-M-P-A-T-H-Y. And I know it's a big word. It's like a dollar word. But go ahead and I want you to use it. I want you to learn it. And here's what empathy is. Everybody look up at me. Here's what empathy is. Empathy is that when you feel hurt, I feel hurt with you. So I want you to think about somebody, don't say this out loud, please, but somebody in your life who's just gone through an experience where they got really hurt. It could be a disease, it could be a relationship, it could be whatever. But a lot of you have somebody in your life who just is going through or just went through a situation where there was hurt. Somebody who has empathy is somebody who understands that person and goes, I hurt with you. Like I'm crying with you. All right? Now, here's what freaked me out about my conversation with my buddy, the psychologist from Charlotte. He said a lot of students right now are struggling to have empathy for other people because of this. Because their conversation is so much taking place on this, and it's not taking place right here. And when it's not taking place here, I can't see your movement. I can't see your smile. I can't see your frown. I can't see your tears. I can't see you get excited. This talk would be a whole lot different if I wasn't physically up here moving around like an animated clown, right? It would be completely different if you heard this on a podcast. Still fine, but it's totally different because you can't see movement. And so here's what freaked me out. He said students your age right now are learning how to fake empathy. So that when you have a friend who's going through a hard time, you don't know how to feel hurt with them, but what you do is you fake it and you go, oh, but you feel nothing. That's a scary place to be. And I don't want you to feel that. Instead, what I want you to do is I want to encourage you to learn how to have human conversation, human interaction, to have voice-to-voice, eyeball-to-eyeball conversation so that you might mess up. Because I know with this right here, you don't have to mess up. Because all you have to do is hit delete. And you go, I need to edit that again. And you edit, and you edit, and you edit, and you ask your friend, is that good? Should I go ahead and hit send? And it's all perfect. Whereas human conversation, even right now, I could screw up because it's live. I don't get to edit what I'm saying. And there's real value in that. I want you to learn the value of that. And I want you to listen to this. John chapter 1. It said the Word became flesh, became a human, had human interaction. The Word became flesh, and Jesus lived with us. You know what that means? So this is incredible because most of you only know Jesus by talking about Him here, by reading about Him in the Bible, or maybe your parents or friends have talked about Jesus or whatever, but none of you have ever come flesh to flesh, eyeball to eyeball with the living Jesus. But can you imagine? If you were standing here, people have asked me, hey, if you were with Jesus, what would you ask? I don't know that I would ask anything. What I would want to do is to have you ask Him a question, and then I want to watch His response. Like, does He snicker? Is his grin cockeyed? Like, does He have a drooping eye? Does He smile really big? Does He frown? Is He kind of stoic? What does He look like? But we won't know unless we've got this human-to-human connection. And so I want to encourage you guys. I'm going to give you a practical step, so go ahead and write under number 2. Practical step. Practical step. So this is a really practical step. When you go out to eat with friends, or when you're around a dinner table of any kind, look up at me real quick. I want you to put this away. What do you think it communicates to your friends when you're sitting at the dinner table, out at Cheeseburger or something, and you're with your friends, and you're texting other friends? It kind of tells them that I'd kind of rather be with them than you. And so we need to start having human-to-human interaction. All right, everybody look up. Is everybody with me? We're good? Okay, so those are the first 2 things that I want you to take advantage of this summer and do. Now here's the third thing, and this one I'm going to warn you, it's a little bit heavy, but it's good. And here's the third thing I want you to do. Number 3, go ahead and write this down. Number 3, I want you to find ways to grow in courage. I want you to find ways to grow in courage. And as you're writing that down, I want you to listen to this song.
When he told you you're now
Now, I want to applaud you guys because you came to youth group. You came to a place where there's human connection. And quite frankly, some of you were a little bit afraid to come in here because you might have had a fight with so-and-so sitting across the room, or there's some dynamic going on here that's a little bit awkward and a little bit weird, but you came anyway. By the way, you don't have to look at the person or nudge them right now. Just let it be. But you came even though it's a little bit fearful. Like, what are they going to think about me? How do they think I look? Am I a certain way that I don't like? Are they a certain way that they don't like? And they know that I don't like this about them and all of that. And so there's all this fear swirling in your head. Guys, listen up, please. But I want you to listen to the words of that song. Fear is a liar, so is it right to believe lies? Is that helpful for us to believe lies? It'll rob you of all of these things that you have in your mind. And I want you to take you back to this incredible series of verses. It's at the very beginning of this book of Joshua, which again is close to the front of the Bible. And it says 4 times in this one section, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be afraid. God is with you wherever you go. Number 2, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be afraid, for God is with you wherever you go. Number 3, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Number 4, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be afraid, for God is with you wherever you go. You think that statement's true? When they say it over and over and over again, and people begin to believe it, and they begin to live it, and the reality is any fear that you've got in you, guys, I'm telling you, at the age and dawning on 44 right now, start dealing with this now. Start pushing through this now. Start taking fear and punching it in the face now. And so how do you do that? How do you take this idea of fear and begin to punch it in the face? There's a guy who writes about teens and students and kind of their situation. Here's what he wrote about Alex. Alex is a junior in high school who's overcome several obstacles in his first 16 years of life. Many of you are 16 years old, so you'll be able to identify that. He had an abusive, deadbeat dad who left the family, growing up in a single-parent household afterwards. The family income that was at the poverty level. He had a speech impediment. He had walking abnormalities and the need to work 2 jobs while attending high school and applying to colleges. That was Alex's life at 16 years old. And what they found out about Alex was that life actually did not lead to Alex being worse off in life. Actually, all of that adversity against Alex actually put him in a position and in a situation to grow through that. And so here's what they're finding. They said educators are now recognizing how the social and emotional factors in a student's life, in your life, the factors that you live in every single day, how those factors may be predictors of a successful person later on. That's why fear is a liar. Is because no matter if you're going through a situation where your parents have split up or you don't have enough money or whatever it might be, the reality is the fear that brings to you is a liar. It will rob you of all of this joy that you have. It will completely suck it dry. And you know what people say about high school, right? These are the best years of your life. They're the best years of your life. Probably not. Hey guys, listen up, please. Probably not. But I will tell you this. I will tell you this about your high school years. It's an incredible, in your middle school years, it's an incredible opportunity to begin working on the person who God has created you to be. It's an amazing opportunity. So here's what I want you to write under number 3. So you should have written down number 3, find ways to build courage. Find ways to build courage. So here's your practical to-do. I want you to pick one thing. I want you to pick one thing that is really, really challenging for you. Like one thing that you think if you tried, you would probably fail. And I want you to go do that one thing. I want you to pick one thing that would be really, really challenging to you, that there is a high probability that you will fail. My boys are at camp right now up in the mountains of North Carolina, and they have this thing called the Little Chief Test. And the Little Chief Test, they get tapped out at 11 o'clock at night. So they haven't slept yet. They get tapped out at 11 o'clock at night. They have to go gather wood for an hour. They get 2 matches. And at 12 o'clock, they have to start a fire, and they have to keep that fire going only with the wood they gathered in the last 1 hour for 6 hours until 6 in the morning. So they have two matches to start a fire at midnight. They can only use the wood they gathered since 11, and they have to keep it going until 6 in the morning. At 6 in the morning, then they have to run up a mountain for a mile. There's a pacer in front and a pacer in back. If you pass the guy in front, you're out. If you get passed by the guy in the back, you're out. Then after the run, you have to go write a 1,500-word essay. Then after the essay, you have to go do hard manual labor the rest of the day until 5 o'clock. And oh, by the way, since 11 o'clock the night before, you can't make a sound. The test is designed to fail. It's designed so that you will fail. Last week, they just did another installment of the test. There were 26 young men who started, and there were 3 who finished. Last year, there were 27 who started, and there were 3 who finished. It's designed to fail, but you grow. You learn so much. There's such incredible respect for these young men who have gone through the test, and even though they failed, they still get to hold up either a $1 or a $2 or a $3, depending on how many times they've gone through it. Because failure can be a great growth opportunity. Number 4, this is the last thing. And I want you to hear this, guys. In all things this summer, whether or not you're going on a trip, whether you're sitting here at youth group, whether you're at a Bible study where you're going out to eat with your friends, whatever it might be, in all things, I want you to write this down. Number 4, walk with Jesus. I want you to walk with Jesus. I want you to listen to Leon Bridges. Here's what I love about this point. There's some of you in this room who are totally engaged with what we're talking about. And then there's some of you in this room who could care less about what we're talking about. And it really kind of makes me sad for the ones of you who care less about what we're talking about. But for those of you who are engaged, and I know that you want to be here, and I know that you want to be a part of what's going on, man, this is an incredible opportunity for the rest of your summer. Because you're going to go on this great adventure of taking hard things, challenging things, and starting to drive through them and giving them a shot. You might fail, but that's okay, because you'll grow in the failure. But Leon Bridges, he wrote that song. He's from Fort Worth, Texas, and he wrote that song in a severe state of depression. And he wrote this song, and he said, "Take me to your river, I want to go. I want to be washed in your cool waters. I want to be drenched by who you are." And for the next couple of months, until August, whenever the school day starts, you've got an opportunity with a lot of freedom. I know some of you are working long hours, but even with that, you've got some freedom where you can take some time and you can begin to walk with Jesus. And what Jesus tells you in His Word is He says, if you will come to me, I will give you life, and I will give it to you overflowing. I'll give you life, and I'll give it to you overflowing. And it's what Leon Bridges is singing about. Take me to your river, cover me up, wash me, pour it over me. And you start walking with God's Word. And so you might be saying, well, I don't really know what that means. It sounds like church talk, walk with Jesus, and all of that. There's some very practical things that you can do. Very, very practical things. So I want you to write this down. I want you to take a Bible or a devotion once per day for 10 minutes. And I just want you to sit with it and read it. And then I want you to put it away. And I want you to go about your day and do your thing. Go out to dinner, go run around the backyard, go to work, go do whatever it is. Go play, is Fortnite still around? Is that still a thing? Go play whatever it is you want to play, right? And then tomorrow, I want you to wake up, and I want you to come back, and I want you to hold that Bible, and I want you to open it for 10 minutes. I just want you to read it. And then I want you to close it and put it away. And then go about your day. And then I want you to come the next day, and I want you to open that Bible and open that devotion, and for 10 minutes, I just want you to sit there, and I just want you to read it. You know what happens to a weightlifter when they lift weights today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day and 3 months from now and 6 months from now and 12 months from now? They start to get swole, right? They start to get big. You know what happens to a runner when they run a mile today, and they run a mile tomorrow, and they run a mile half the next day, and they run 2 miles the next day, and they run 6 miles, and they run 12 miles, and they run 18 miles? You know what happens to them? They increase in their endurance. They grow. Don't buy into the lie that you can just open up an app. Don't buy into the lie that you can just come on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night and like you're good. Instead, I want you to just take your Bible or take your devotion for 10 minutes and just read it. And then close it. And there's going to be a lot of mornings where you close that book or you close that devotion and go, I have no idea what that just said. That's okay. Just put it down, pick it back up tomorrow, and do it again. And that repetition over time, you'll start to grow and you'll start to walk with Jesus. Now, don't laugh at me, don't make fun of me, but in the mornings, I don't know if every of y'all heard of a Peloton bike, but I get on this Peloton bike, I sweat it out a little bit, and then I get off the Peloton bike in my goofy-looking exercise clothes, and I put a light on my chest, and I go outside and I walk. And I walk around our circle. And about 2 months into doing that, I started to come home, and I told my wife, and she didn't freak out. She was good with it. I said, sweetie, I feel like I'm starting to kind of walk with Jesus. Like, I'm just talking. I know I look like a crazy man out there. But I'm just kind of talking, and I'm listening, and I'm thinking through what I read, and all of a sudden I'm walking with Jesus. That didn't happen day one. But over time, you just start getting closer to the people you walk with. If you want to get closer to somebody, what do you do with them? You spend time with them. 4 things I want you to do this summer. Number 1, go back to your sheet. I want you to work on a hard skill. I want you to pick something. What do you really want to do? Go do it. Work on a hard skill. Number 2, spend more time talking to human beings in real life. Put these things away for a little bit. Not all the time, it's fine, but put them away for a little bit and have real conversation. Number 3, I want you to start building courage by doing things that scare you a little bit. And then number 4, I want you to take God's words, His literal words, and just for a few minutes every day, I want you to read them. And then put it away. And then do it again tomorrow. Rinse and repeat till the day school starts, and you're going to walk into that school a completely different student than what you walked out of just a few weeks ago. I'm going to pray over us because I realize some of you are at different places in your spiritual walk, and I want to encourage that. So let me pray. God, will you allow us to walk with you? Will you give a clear invitation for these students to be able to walk with you? Not in some super spiritual, super religious, crazy, kind of whacked out way, but in a way that's just very real for them. That's meaty, that they can bite into. God, give these students wisdom. They're capable of that. Your word is so encouraging to students. It says, do not let them look down on you because of your youth. The youthfulness gives them great courage. So I pray that we would stoke that. I pray that we would fan that flame. I pray for the team here at the church that they would see the outcome that's available for these students. And I pray that the Low Country in May and June. I pray that you do students start to kind of walk in this idea of doing challenging things and talking to real life human beings in a real life way. taking some risk with these skill sets that you've already put inside of them. God, help these things to come out. I pray that your name would be applauded through their outcomes, through the things that you're starting to do through them. God, encourage them. We commit them to you, submit them to you, and ask that you would have a real moment and multiple moments with each of them and with us. We love you. We're grateful that you give us your word. We're grateful that you give us music. We're grateful that you give us lights and smoke and all of this. I pray that you would use it all for you and do great things to these students. In Jesus' name.